Welcome to the Embodiment Podcast. This show is for you if you see the body as more than a brain taxi. It's for people interested in coming home to the body as a holistic aspect of who we are and how we live. Episodes contain practical tips, exercises you can take away, and interviews with specialists from around the world. I'm your host for today, Mark Walsh. So back on the show today, Tad Hargrave. So Tad is one of my all-time favorite people in the sort of conscious marketing, conscious business spaces, ethical marketing, that kind of thing. He was the first person I bumped into in that space at all, actually, and I've since been recommending him for years. He's done guest sessions for my mentees. He's coming out of background in personal growth, done all kinds of things personally. He really gets the whole sort of green space. Giving advice for years on how to make a living without being a total asshole to people that do embodiment type stuff. We had him on the podcast once and it was so good. Not long ago, actually, I said, you know what, we need to continue this conversation. I'm in Berlin and I've been teaching a little bit of marketing here, actually, because I thought, what can I offer these people at this great embodiment festival, Body IQ, that I was at? And basically, there's all these great embodiment teachers, but no one was doing anything on sales and marketing. And I went, you know what? I'm going to do something on that, because otherwise it's disempowering to see my community who have so much to offer to not be able to sell it, to not earn a living. It was just too much. So I was using a lot of Tad stuff in that piece that went down very well. I credited you, Tad. And you're super welcome back, sir.
Well, yeah, amazing to be here and back so soon. It was a very rich conversation we had before. I'm curious, what did you focus on? Because, there's a lot you could talk about in, imagine, a short marketing session.
Yeah, I mean, my general strategy with students when I'm doing guest things like that is, one, I kind of reframe what marketing is. I acknowledge the pain of what I call Sith marketing, the sort of evil, lying, manipulative, nasty approach to marketing. I really acknowledge that. And then I say, can we define it another way? And then I'll define it as letting people know how you can help them. And I'll define it as meeting people's needs. I'll define it as building long-term relationships. And I'll talk about marketing as a spiritual practice, as a practice of play, as a practice of authenticity and vulnerability. And last, just describe what a sales funnel is from a sort of point of view of people that think like us. And that takes about an hour and a half, and that completely changes the worlds of everybody that hears it. So that's the absolute basics, a lot of which I think I got from you over the years.
That's amazing. That's one. I just led a weekend workshop myself. I had 4 people in my living room for 3.5 days, one of whom came from Brazil. She's discovered my work, and now she has a business called Slow Marketing or something in Brazil, teaching my stuff down there, where they're like 30 years behind, still in the aggressive. I think a lot of the Americans are now going down there. But there was one woman, and she does craniosacral, and she said, well, I've got more modalities than clients, basically, which is not really true. But she realized over the past few years the niche thing has been an issue, and so we started brainstorming. We just had some flip chart paper on the ground. So, okay, what are the options? You can see, like, what do you love to help people with? What are the issues you feel most qualified for or excited about? So, car accidents, concussions, depression, anxiety. And we had I had her draw it out in a graph. So on one axis, there was how passionate are you about it? And the other axis was how specific is it? So like stress was one. So stress goes on 0 out of 10 on specificity. So we did that. And so then I said, look, anything that's below the line, below the 50% line of passion, just cut it. We're not doing that. So then we started looking at what was above that, and leaning towards the things that are a bit more specific. And then she said, oh, there's one more. She wrote down domestic abuse. And she said, a lot of women who've been in domestic abuse situations, the nervous system is so fried, and that can go on for the rest of their life, this constant hijacked nervous system. And so she's, I'd really love, because the craniosacral in this work I do can really help them settle that and move through it. And so then I said, okay, well, pick your top 3 target markets just to, for the next year to focus on. And that was one of them. And I said, okay, just for this weekend, pick one. And she picked that one. And then the sales funnel thing, we just started talking about, well, what could the levels, packages be? And I said, there's a way to think about this as a cynical kind of marketing thing, but you could also think about it as, like, if money wasn't an issue for them, what would you want to do for them? Like, what's the full meal deal? Like, you have a little gift basket and you could fill it with anything for them. Women who are in that situation, who are ready to heal from this, oh my gosh, she just had so many ideas. I could give them well, certainly a number of bodywork sessions, but also connections with other psychologists. In fact, I'd insist that they're seeing a talk psychologist while we go through this. We could spread it out over 9 months, and we could, or 3 months, and there's a book they should read, and then there's one of these little light, like one of those lights you can use in winter to.
Okay.
She just started having all these ideas of things she could throw, and you could just see she was so lit up, and it was just amazing because I see this over and over again when people. It's like when you get somebody a really good gift and you've nailed it. Like my brother loves cooking, and I got him one of these fancy Japanese folded steel knives, and he almost wept. He's not a crier, but oh man, he was just. And I was so excited to give it to him. I couldn't wait. I was just like, ready for the moment. And we can start to feel like this in our marketing when we think through the sales funnel, when we think through what are the offers and the stages and what would they get at different levels. Anyways, it was just something that happened, and it was inspiring to watch it.
I was reminded of you this morning. I was walking in the graveyard in Berlin in the rain. This dark city in winter, and I'm talking to my mentee. It's any quiet space I could find. And he's a wedding photographer, like a conscious, mindful wedding photographer. And he's basically like, look, I'll capture the real you, the authentic you, not the cheesy bullshit. I'll make sure your love is like really recorded, your actual love, not some setup. And really beautiful offer he has. And his problem is he's got too many ideas. He's like, but I could also photograph this and I could also photograph that. I'm like, dude, you like this? There's money in it. You're great at this. You're good at it. You like it. People will pay for it. I'm like, do that and work that business well. And if you have that solidly nailed down as a business in 6 months, I'll help you start another business if you want. But let's just nail that down. Give it a good 2-3 years working on it. And he'd already decided this was like his favorite thing. And we'd gone through a whole process. And instead of being the photographer for dating websites and the photographer for this and for that, I said, just be the, ethical wedding photography, this conscious thing. You've got your own personal take on it. And then we talked about his funnel, and I said, you need to turn people you don't know need to know about you. You need to maintain relationship and build trust with people. And then at some point they might buy from you if it's a good fit. And then we just walked through how he could do that through offering value, being generous, doing articles on because he's seen 200 weddings. So I said, you could do a great article on how to enjoy your wedding day. Because people are shit at that because they've never practiced it. Whereas you've seen 200 people do it. And that's super useful for some bride to go, wow, I could actually be present for my own wedding. And this is just an example of using some of your principles that I was playing with today.
All right.
Let's go back to niching then. So I'd refer listeners back to podcast 1. And why is that important to have a niche? Why can't I just do everything for everyone?
Because, well, first of all, it's good to define terms here. So when I say niche, I think often, first of all, people think of it just as who, as target market, ideal client, as if that's all synonymous. And I would just say who is one part of it. And, also what you do, how you do it, when, where, why you do it. But so to simplify it, I would say, so the word niche comes from the French verb nicher, which means to make a nest. And so this is kind of what we're doing in the marketplace, making a home for ourselves, a place where we can come back to and sustain ourselves. And the definition I use of niche is your niche is the role you want to be known for in the marketplace. So if it's the role you want to be known for in the marketplace, then it's good to understand, well, you're already known for something, and B, it's inevitable that you will become known for something over time, even if you're just starting. So this question of, when people say, well, should I have a niche or not? I would just reframe it as, are you trying to say, should I be known for something or not? Because you don't get a choice in that.
You've got a reputation, right?
I mean, and what you're known for could be, what does that person do? It does some kind of, it's like acro yoga movement, dances. That's what it sounds like in the real world.
Right.
So you're known as a kind of generalist, a bunch of things. Does he go to Burning? I think he goes to Burning Man once a year. Maybe is he involved in that? So you'll be known for something. The only question is, are you going to be known for the thing you want to be known for? Is the reputation that you cultivate and develop going to bring you the kinds of clients that you want to work with?
Yep.
In sufficient numbers, period. That's it. You don't get an option. And to come at it from another angle, it's when people say, well, do I have to choose a niche? The unstated premise in this is well, so do I have to limit myself? Because what I'd really like is just to have everybody. I'd like to have 100% of the marketplace. But you don't have 100%. No one does.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you say, well, no, I disagree. I'm going to generalize, and I'll be just broad enough that everyone would, I'd appeal to everyone. Well, some people will be turned off because you're a generalist.
Great.
They'll look at you and say, you're so, like, no matter which way you go, you lose people. Some people will be turned off by you because you remind them of the next boyfriend or girlfriend. There's no winning everybody. There's no chance there.
Yeah.
So if we understand, even the best marketers, the savviest, most authentic, whatever, are going to get a very narrow band of the marketplace actually resonant, interested in them. If we understand that, then it's just, okay, we should be very clear about the choice. You know, one of the metaphors I use a lot is this principle of sympathetic resonance, which to me is still magic, where if you have, say, two guitars next to each other, and you pluck the string on one guitar, the A string on one guitar, the A string on the other guitar will vibrate if they're, well in tune and pluck it hard enough and all that. So but nothing from the other strings. The other 5 strings, there's literally zero reaction. So to me, that's all marketing is you're walking around plucking your one string, and 5 out of 6 people, there's nothing. There is no reaction, and neither should there be. But the people who are, resonant with you, if you've got it well tuned, which to me is a clear niche, and you're plucking this, then those people just, whoa, what is that? Sometimes, and it can genuinely be a magical kind of visceral something where people don't even, you go to a cafe or you see a website, you meet a person, you don't even know why. Right. I think we've all had this, been at a party, you meet somebody, and then you just like, can I have a session with you? They haven't even told you they're a therapist.
Yeah. Some students, I was just doing a workshop in Berlin, some students, I said, why are you here? I really like this particular niche approach to yoga. We have a very niche attitude to yoga. And some students just like, I just came across your stuff. There was something about you, and I really felt, and I'm like, are you even a yoga teacher? Like, my target market is like a particular kind of yoga teacher. And we say 90% of yoga teachers are not going to like this. When I'm working at a festival, I even niche in my session. I, at the beginning of my session, say, listen, I'm going to swear, I'm going to make rude jokes, I'm going to talk really quickly. It's going to be pretty rough and ready, but it's also going to be super practical. I said, if you want an intellectual wank fest, you're in the wrong place. If you want super sensitive, it's not a safe space. You're not going to get that. This is what it is. And people walk out, and I'm really glad they walk out. Not because I hate them, but because I want them to be in a session they're going to love and not mine. And I want the people to be there to be a good fit. And I'm doing that in the room. So how much more should we do that when we're signing up for a 6-month course with clients,
Yeah. That makes me think of a video I did a while ago. I think the title of it was Stop Hoping People Pick You. Because I think this is how a lot of entrepreneurs walk around, is like hoping everyone's going to pick them. Like it's back to elementary school, and are you going to pick me for the team? But that hope is the thing that compromises our integrity in the conversation. Because if I'm in a conversation with you hoping that you're going to say yes to me, what that is saying is my secret hidden agenda is to get you to say yes, or that my self-worth hinges on you saying yes. And if I think my self-worth hinges on you saying yes, you better believe I'll be extremely manipulative. I'm going to use every tactic I can to charm you, to get you to like me, to get you to select me. Versus if, just like you said, if I just say, look, marketing in my mind, it's just sharing. That's it. I'm just saying, look, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is who I do it for. This is how I do it. If you're into that, here's where you can find more. And if not, I mean, bless you on your way, but this isn't that thing. And I think so many people in their marketing withhold this stuff in their marketing. Like there's a woman in Calgary does financial workshops. And she's, much like you, but she just swears all the time. She's extremely angry, aggressive, pugilistic in her stance. And she, it's intense to be around her, but she was in the financial industry and she saw the corruption, and now she's never stopped being angry about it, but teaches people. And there was a woman who I sent an email to my Edmonton list, and she went when this woman came to Edmonton. And this woman who went to the workshop was very sensitive, chemically sensitive, emotionally, just so gentle. And she, I saw her walking down the street. I said, oh, hey, did you go to the workshop? And she said, I did. I said, how was it? And she gave me this look. She said, just overwhelmed. And I realized, this isn't saying that Tammy is the woman who led the workshop. It isn't saying there's anything wrong with Tammy at all. It's just saying
for this person.
It might be nice if on Tammy's website, she were to reveal this in some way, here's some live footage of me in a workshop, or it shows up in the sales copy. So it's not like, oh, there's this real gentle sales copy, and then this,
we have the worst of Mark Walsh video collection that all potential customers get sent. And what we found was, I mentioned this to some of my students, and they were like, we want to see it. They were like really wanting to see it, because to them it was like fun. They wanted to see it for fun. But this is something we really learned before signing people up for a 9-month program. Even a 1-day program, I think now is like, hey, this is, if you get offended, this is the stuff that might offend you. So like, here's fair warning. And the nice thing about that is that people that do sign up, there's also a sense of like, hey, I've signed up for this, and because I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want complaints from my side either. So it's like, this is the fit. How would we redefine a sales funnel then? Because a normal sales funnel, the idea is like, you have to get as many people as possible, and you convert as many of them as possible to get their money, and you have to push them down the funnel into people all buying your most big program, and success is as much people in there as possible. So if we redefine that in terms of a fit rather than just conversion, what does that look like?
Well, I mean, first of all, I should just say I'm not particularly precious about language. I mean, in my workshops, I'll try to unpack some of the language so we're cognizant of it, but I'm also not, sometimes I'll say the word convert, but it is good to, first of all, just pause on that word a little bit to understand the context where that word has been used. I think of religion. And so that word does not have a pretty history. The changing something into something else, changing someone into something else.
Right.
And so that's the idea. You're a potential client, which is also a whole other thing to unpack of, that's all they are is potential. They're not actually a real human. They're just untapped potential.
It's dehumanizing.
Yeah, if they just be your client, they could tap that potential. So there's all that. So a lot of the language that gets used is dehumanizing and turns it into almost like a video game. I remember years ago I got into a lot of the dating and pickup stuff, and of course a lot of the language that's used there is very dehumanizing and very it's no surprise a bunch of nerdy guys come up with this and they start talking about it like it's a video game. But the challenge is, of course, in sales and dating and in finance, whatever it is, these are real people. And so it's important to come to it in that way. Okay, so with that frame, to me, so much of it comes back to the intention. If the intention is to get the sale, everything you do is going to be manipulative. If the intention is to get to the truth of if this is a fit, it won't be. And so to me, the sales funnel can be approached from those two agendas. If my agenda is to get everything you just said, it's going to feel bad. People will feel pressured, and they're going to be on the receiving end of your manipulations and machinations to get them to take next steps, whether or not it's a fit. But if the agenda is really to only move forward if it's a fit, or to share and just have a conversation, then what it looks like is it's just saying, look, there's a reason for a business model. The broad end of it, the kind of what I call the pink spoons, the free samples, the ice cream cones, that stuff, that really exists for their safety, the safety of the people who are checking you out, especially the pink spoons. And so, we're talking online video, audio, written things, quizzes, assessments, all that kind of stuff. That exists so they can check you out safely at a distance with zero risk to yourself. Like, there's 4 criteria to me of an ideal pink spoon. One is it's free, costs no money. Second, it gives them a legitimate taste of what you do. Third, it's risk-free for them, no risk at all. And fourth, you can automate it so you can be asleep while they're enjoying it. And that allows them to, from a distance, see if it's a fit. And then they can choose to take the next step forward or not. But then what's the rest of the funnel? Well, if this top part of the funnel is about safety, the lower part is about sustainability for you, because the business has to be sustainable for you. Because otherwise you are you're just going to bring yourself to the ground, which is what most I see holistic practitioners do. Is they only offer ice cream cones. There's not even any pink spoons, so it's not so safe.
What's the pink spoon? I don't get that part.
Sorry. This is from a book, Pink Spoon Marketing by Andrea Lee, which goes into the sales funnels where I got it. But it's like if you go to an ice cream shop, you can get the little pink spoon sample of ice cream.
Yeah, you can taste the ice cream before you buy it and go, I like this one, I'll buy a cone. Yeah.
So most practitioners don't have that. And they also have nothing else they offer. So it's just single session, like a single ice cream cone, single session. So the reason we have the rest of the funnel, such as, for practitioners leading workshops, potentially selling ebooks, online programs, selling the yoga mats, yoga cushions, a naturopath will sell the supplements, acupuncturists will sell the herbs as well, or offering retreats, or offering deeper coaching, or offering bigger packages. So, as we started off today, this woman who does the craniosacral. Now, she could have a woman come to her and say, boy, I went through a really hard relationship. I'm trying to recover. And she could say, well, let's just come single session by session and see how it goes. Mm-hmm. But she could also, and that's freestyling it, which is what most practitioners do. But she could also say, wait, I'm going to come up with something just for those people. And I'm going to think through, because she'd also been through a relationship like this. What would I have needed? What would have felt good? And she could have a whole protocol, Okay, so it's going to be 3 months. I want to see you twice a week. And in between, I'm going to give you some exercises to do. And it's going to be about 30 minutes a day. So if you can't do that, this may not be the package for you. I'm also going to insist that you see a therapist during this time. I'm going to give you a book to read that I think everyone should read in this situation. And I'm going to ask, there's certain things you don't do during these 3 months just to give yourself nervous system a chance, etc. So she could come up with this whole plan. And then, but that's it's going to cost more. That's a more comprehensive something. It's not going to be necessarily a decrease in price of the number of sessions because it's so well thought out. Anyways, all of this could make her life a lot more sustainable. Right. Because instead of hustling constantly to sell ice cream cones, instead of hustling to get a session after session, she could sell potentially, 10, 20 of those in a year and basically have her bills paid. And the result is going to be better for the person who comes in, because it's not just, here's the pitch that I hear from most practitioners. Some version of this, depending on the modality, would be like, so when you come in, we're going to do this, and then it's very subtle, though. You may feel it, you may not. And then after 2 weeks, if you feel better, I'll take credit for that. But if you don't feel better, I'll blame your fear and resistance.
Wow. That's put it like that. Yeah. So what we've got here in the looking after oneself is that the funnel becomes increasing trust, but also increasing commitment, because the commitment part is about, I say to people, it's like, look, this has to be kind to the customer and to you. And it's about self-care is about sustainability. Self-care is not just about having a bubble bath once a week. Self-care is also about looking after yourself financially. And that includes commitment, but commitment with the right people. You don't just move in with people right away for their sake and for yours. So as there's the free giveaways, there's the initial things, and then there's like, okay, with some of my students, it's like a 1-day workshop, then it's maybe a 9-month thing, and then there's a 2-year commitment for some of my, my bigger students. But they've gone through a process where they're getting to know me, I'm getting to know them, it's a good fit, we can decide. And I say, they're asking me, they say, why is it 2 years? And I say, 1, because I want to get the absolute best result for you. And this is how long I think it takes to nurture someone in this way. And secondly, I can guarantee income then for 2 years. That looks after me. I can relax in that. I can be doing less marketing and more looking after you. And is that kind of aligned with what you're saying here?
Oh, man, that's just amen. 100%. You nailed it. I mean, that textbook. I love everything you said. When a thought came up to me. I don't know if it'll add anything, though. That's perfect. Well, here's what I'm going to say is, of course, with the sales funnel, right at the broader end, where so just the short analogy is, pink spoons, ice cream cones, a little gallon of ice cream cake, and then you could join a club where you do ice cream related things every month. That would be like, or for a yoga studio, it could be a free drop-in class, a paid drop-in class, memberships, 30-day pass, workshops and retreats, and then the teacher training, which actually pays for the whole studio. So we've got that. Now at the broader end, of course, more people are going to take advantage of it. Why? Because there's less risk and less commitment asked of them. Mm-hmm. No commitment to watch a video online. Great. But at this level, the mentorship type programs, which you and I both offer, there is more commitment asked. We do ask more of people. And just like you said, it's like, I want to be able to relax. Then I can focus on doing the work, not on marketing, and you get more of my time. And I think we both want that. So that's when the filtering becomes much more important, because I don't want somebody joining and then dropping out. That's a drag for me. That's now a space I have to fill. And I want to be helping people. So so one of the things I came up with years ago was, or we talked about this last time, the Are You Sure page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when people go to your website and they're about to buy, and instead of rushing them through, you're like, are you sure?
Yeah, it's very important. Anything that can, especially when it's higher stakes on both sides, to slow down the process a bit. I've heard it called questioning the yes. Because sometimes people, of course, out of excitement, want to sign up for your thing. But just because they want to sign up doesn't mean they're a good fit for you. And just because you want them to sign up.
Who like me, but aren't a good fit for what I offer. And I have to be careful with that, because they might sign up because they like me, they want the relationship, they feel warm towards me. But that might be their pattern, trying to please people, or, whatever. It's not necessarily means I can serve them well. Quick break to tell you about our program. So as well as the podcast, we have various kinds of online training. So we have the Embodied Yoga Principles online training, as well as in-person training. Embodied Yoga Principles for yogis who want to get yoga off the mat, specialize in the psychology of yoga, unique postures. It's a 5-day training. We have one in Brighton, one in Berlin, and one in Austin, Texas. So if you go to Embodied Yoga Principles, you can find them. Also the online version of the training for people who can't make those dates. Excellent courses. The Embodied Yoga Principles training for the yogis. For the coaches and facilitators, we have the Embodied Facilitator course. This is our flagship course. We offer it in Moscow, also in the UK. A 9-month adventure, real deep dive into embodiment. It's the biggest embodiment program I do. It could be like movement people who want to work in business more. We have people like dancers and martial arts teachers come to learn more about working in mainstream settings, but also for coaches and trainers who want something really well structured, who want to work on themselves, who want to learn practical tools, learn how to work with the body in facilitation. If you can't make EFC, and it is a big ask, there's an online course we run called the Foundations of Embodiment Certification. So if you go to Embodied Facilitator, you'll find the in-person, and then FEC, F-E-C, F for Freddie, E-C for Charlie, FEC. You'll come out with the Foundations of Embodiment Certification, and also do one-day events all around the world. So I'm just about to do a tour to Slovenia, Berlin, Copenhagen, Brussels, Amsterdam, and Brighton. The Brighton one is £10, which is like $15. So if you're coming from abroad, that could make that affordable. The Brighton one's always like a really big fun one, so that's coming up. Again, go to the Embodied Facilitator course to see all of these events. And we have a little online evening as well. If people just want a taster, again, that's £10. That's a 3-hour thing coming up as well. Embodiedfacilitator.com, embodiedfacilitator.com, and you'll find all those events, or Embodied Yoga Principles for the yoga ones. Okay, so that's the stuff that I sell. Oh, and the book, the embodiment book. If you want to get my book and learn about embodiment through reading, you can also get the embodiment book available at Amazon and no good bookstores. So there we go. Excuse the interruption, and back to the episode.
Yeah, I know there's one fellow who does a lot of teaching. He has a similar kind of, it's a 2-year program, and during the first session, he's extremely gruff. I don't know if it's by design or if it's just how it shows up, but the first session, he's really pretty intense. There's not a lot of smiling, and that shakes a lot of people off. And the second session, he's all smiles. But there's something about it's like, if you can't handle this, then I'm not the one you want, because this is part of my repertoire. So I'll just let you see the rough edges first.
See the worst first.
Yeah.
My students always say to me, "You got so much nicer over the year, Mark." And I'm it's like, no, I just showed you the worst first, and then everything else. Yeah. Okay. So, what are the main mistakes you see people making in kind of movement field, holistic health field? Like the classic ones, as you say, like not looking after themselves, not pricing themselves well. What are some of the stuff that's just like quick wins, avoid this?
Oh my gosh. What's interesting around pricing, here's just a thought. I've talked about this a lot in different places, but one of the big places people get so messed up around pricing is it gets conflated with self-worth. So the whole charge what you're worth, charge what you deserve. Just to say that what you're worth, what you deserve, it's utterly separate from what you charge. They literally have nothing to do with each other. Just to save people years of therapy, stop that conflation, because it's just, that's a railroad to disaster. What you charge is just going to be the amount that feels good for you. period, based on the facts. You sit down, you go over the facts. Okay, what are my expenses? What are my goals? And then you come up with a price that you can live with. That's it. It's all made up. It's completely fictional. So you just have to feel good about it. And the truth is, if you charge too much or an amount that feels too high for you or an amount that feels too little, you'd be off rhythm. It's not going to help you. If you charge an amount that genuinely feels right after you've considered the facts, you're going to feel really good about sharing what you have to offer. So that's one. I mean, other quick wins. Okay, here's another quick win. And there's if you go to marketingforhippies.com/risk, there's an extensive blog post about that. And this actually just clicked for me last week as I was sitting in my own workshop. First of all, we have to deal with risk. There's three roles or functions of marketing. The first one is we have to get their attention. The second one is we have to filter, which we've talked about a bit, making sure it's really a fit. But the third is we've got to lower the risk of them taking the first step. And this is something I think so many practitioners don't do. We've already talked about it a bit in terms of the sales funnel, having those free samples, the ways that people can check you out online at a distance will do a lot to reduce the risk. But let me give three kind of big things, the main things. The most important thing you can be doing to reduce the risk so that they would actually be willing to, because it's a risk to come see you, to spend the money. This could not work out. This could make it worse. I mean,
email is a risk, right? Even like putting an email on a sign up is a risk because you could spam them. Even, everything's an investment, even if it's just spending a bit of time watching a video. People send me 20-minute videos. That's an investment for me to watch a 20-minute video. I'd watch a 20-minute video that you sent me because I trust you, but a complete stranger, probably not.
Somebody sends me a long email that's kind of rambling, proposing something, but I don't know what, and they don't understand what it costs me. The risk it is because what if I read this whole email and then it was a waste of my time? Yeah. So there's that. I had a friend who went to get some physiotherapy, and the physiotherapist made it worse. I mean, for years she was dealing with the damage that they did. So, anyways, there's a lot of risk of people. Oh God, when we're talking about the body, there's a very visceral level of risk. Okay. So three things you can do. The most important thing, I would say 90% of reducing the risk is establishing a good reputation. That's most of it. And what does that come from? That comes from having a really clear niche and delivering results for people. There's nothing that reduces risk more than me saying, I don't know, I was going to go join Mark Walsh's program, but it's a lot of money. I don't know. And then I talk with, let's say 2 or 3 people who are in this. Oh, no, this is, what's your situation? What do you want? Yeah, no, this is what you need. If I heard that from a few people, I'd say, okay, I don't need to read the sales letter. I often joke with people in my workshops. When I talk about this, I say, so raise your hand if you read the whole sales letter for this day-long event. And very few people raise their hands. I say, what's wrong with you?
They just want the flavor. I've seen. They even want a referral, like you've said, and they look at it and they go, okay, maybe they're looking at 1 or 2 things. Okay, is it live? Okay, great. I can get to the date. I can afford the cost. And is the flavor a good fit with me, like brand, this is my kind of yoga thing. I'm pretty confident I'll get on with this.
Right. And also, if somebody they respect or trust told them to come, then definitely I won't read the sales letter. Because why bother?
Do you think there's a risk in referrals? Because we've had a couple of people that have had a lot of trust from someone else, and then it's turned out they were a terrible fit because they had a different personality, like your sensitive lady, for example. Like someone with a really robust personality says, Mark Walsh is brilliant, go to his workshop, I loved it. They tell their sensitive friend, and their sensitive friend hates it and cries. But they've got all this trust. We've found referrals a bit dangerous that way, actually.
Oh, yeah. And this, I was saying it earlier, just because they want to work with you and just because you want to work with them, this is not a trustworthy metric. Right. I mean, they're, it's because who knows if it's a fit. You can get excited about a lot. I mean, you can get excited dating. You meet somebody and you just get enamored with each other. Your level of arousal and enamoredness with somebody is utterly unreliable in terms of whether this is a long-term relationship fit. So that's why.
Quick.
Yeah.
That one.
So the first thing, that's the most important thing for making it safer for people. The second thing is the education. So this is where a lot of the marketing comes in, where we share our point of view, we share our philosophy, we share here's who I am, and we walk them through. So even if they've been referred, even if they come in trusting us, that still does matter. And sometimes people, it's just how much time, how much money, how much emotional risk. They want to read a lot. I mean, this is why, people write books. It's in big measure to educate people on one's point of view, largely through stories, so that people can feel safer. And then the last thing that you can do, so let's say the first is 90%, that second one is 9%, the last one's 1%. So it's icing on the cake, but icing is delicious, so we don't need to knock icing. It's still very powerful, and if you add it to those first two, it just pushes it way over the edge of effectiveness, which is you take on some of the risk. So this is money back guarantees. I do my day-long workshops, weekend workshops on a pay-what-you-can basis. Street performers do that. I'll do the whole show. You pay me whatever you think at the end. There's a lot of ways to do this, and in the blog post, there's lots of examples. But any way that you can say, look, I understand it is a genuine risk for you, so I'm willing to take on some of the risk, all of the risk, or even more than all of the risk on my side to make it safer for you. And if all three of those things are in place, first of all, if you've got their attention, if you've really filtered well, so the people showing up are definitely a good fit, and then you have those three things going on, marketing just becomes, there's no effort. You know what I'm saying? There's no
pushiness needed, no lies needed, no tricks needed.
Yeah.
Just move if all those things are happening, right? And it's interesting. I was talking to your man, Mark Silver, who you recommended, by the way. Thank you. Public thank you. Really good guy. Loved him. Complimentary to you. Things in common, things different. And he was talking about safety as well. And I realized, I'm a trauma educator. It's one of the parts of what I do. And I realized it's really like trauma-sensitive marketing.
Wow.
That's really what you're doing, is not getting people in fight or flight, not getting them excited, really helping them feel a sense of safety so they can really connect with their genuine gut instinct about it rather than being in reactivity.
That's good.
Like, you want to use that? Feel free. Trauma, like you and Mark, I was like, these guys are doing trauma-sensitive marketing. That's what this is.
Amazing. I'm gonna do a video about that today, and I'll totally quote you and link you. I never thought about it like that, but that's true. And because I often say this with the way I've framed it is this kind of marketing of offering the pink spoons, and it's just courteous. It's so kind to be like, I remember I got a sales letter where it said, come to my 5-day marketing workshop. By the way, I'm a fundamentalist Christian, so there will be worship. Guy Randy Gage. I just thought, God bless you, Randy Gage. I just loved him for it because he was, I don't want to go. It's not fit for me, but could you imagine you're a fundamentalist Christian and then you read that, you'd be so happy. So it's so kind to people to just let them know, here's where this could go south. Here's where this may not be a fit. Here's very candidly, this is who I am. This is my style.
It's really civil. If I may jump in, Tad, there's something about it which is very English almost. It's very polite. It's very civil. It's not like authentic, like I have to eye gaze and tell you everything about my deepest trauma history, but it's something just pleasantly civil about this way of doing things that just feels like, there's a reason we have manners in civilization. It reminds me almost of sort of chivalrous marketing almost. This in the sort of knightly traditions, there's something in this, without the sexist connotations, there's something in this which is just sort of civil, chivalrous, almost polite. It feels almost old, there's an old-fashionedness to it, which I actually really like.
Well, and I think you could wind it much further back than that. This is, I think, the heart of so many indigenous cultures. So, for example, I met a fellow years ago, an indigenous fellow, Blackfoot fellow from Alberta. And he gave me this handshake that was this kind of limp fish, and it just felt gross. It was like, ugh. But then years later, I learned some of the meaning of this type of handshake and basically what's being said in that kind of a handshake, because that's how they would both shake each other's hands, very light, barely touching. And what it's saying is, look, we're just meeting, you and I, and we don't know each other. So I'm not trying to make a big impression on you. You're not trying to make a big, let's just see how this goes. So but most, there are literally workshops on how to give a powerful handshake.
Yeah, Trump is always trying to dominate people this way.
It was a very satisfying moment as a Canadian where our Prime Minister met with, because he has that thing where he'll grab your hand and just pull it in, and our Prime Minister just locked his elbow and just his hand, and you can see, anyways.
The younger guy.
There's all these handshakes where, and it's designed to make a powerful first impression, but to consider those words, first impression. What is an impression? It's like a dent. I'm pressing in on you. And this is not trauma sensitive. This is aggressive in the extreme. And so I think most traditional cultures have been very big on the slow approach, very big on we get to know each other slowly, over time. We don't rush things, which is a very sane approach to things. And it's and there's such an immense courtesy. You know, I remember I did a ceremonial something, and when I came back from it, I felt fine. I want to see everyone. This is going to be great. And you know, I'd been out in the woods, no food, no water for a while. But when I came back, the guy was running, and he said, "Look," because there were a bunch of people to welcome us back. But he said to those people, "They're coming back from something very big, and they may not even understand how big it is. But when you're going to go now greet them, you're going to shake their hand back again, a very light touch, and you don't even really look at them directly. A very soft gaze, and kind of over their shoulder, and you just murmur, you know, thank you for what you've done." And I sort of thought, well, that's nice, until they got to me. And then all of a sudden, I could feel the fragility that I'd been kind of putting down or just hadn't been aware of. And I realized if they'd come up to me and said, "Hey, how's it going? So welcome back," it would have shattered me. It would have been so overwhelming. Yeah. And I think we don't often understand how vulnerable people in the marketplace are, and how people have a hard time saying no. People have a hard time setting boundaries, just period, in this culture. All of us, I think, for the most part. Even those of us who are empowered have our moments where it's hard. And so could I get people to say yes? Sure. But then, then there's the refunds, and then there's the bad clients, and then there's the impact on them. What is it like for them to be mauled by our enthusiasm?
Nice. I like this idea of sort of tribal marketing. If you think of, we grew up in these hunter-gatherer bands of 100, 150 people. We could trust people that were around us because we knew them. We were, of course, looking for long-term relationships because you couldn't just keep swiping through people. Just in your own best interests as well as just your own empathy. You'd have to look those people in the eye if you ripped them off the day before. And then strange tribes were potentially fatal. You give a bad deal to the Vikings over the hill, they're going to come and kill you all. So it's like there's a couple of really good reasons you want to A, be trading ethically, and B, be real careful with that interface.
Yeah, and I think there was also the understanding, so a lot of my ancestors from the Highlands of Scotland, and there was the understanding, let's say you were visiting another clan. You knew that you represented your clan in that moment. And if you behaved badly, that represented your whole clan. And it wouldn't be a bad thing if all yoga teachers, for example, knew that they were representing every yoga teacher in every class they ever did. And every time they talked with somebody, and it was the first time they talked with anyone who did yoga, they said, wow, I'm representing this whole industry, this whole field. So the way I carry myself right now has implications that are much bigger than me, because that's the truth.
Yeah, this is how the Sikhs do it. The Sikhs have a very good reputation for business in the UK. There's a strong Sikh business community, and Sikhs are very recognizable because the guys have these turbans, these headbands, so they're really clearly Sikh. Everyone knows what a Sikh is. And when they do business, they know they represent all Sikhs, and that's a really big deal to them because they want it to represent well on their whole faith. I never had a bad dealing with a Sikh, and I think that's part of it, is that the same way I was just in Tel Aviv, the Orthodox Jews do diamond trades in Tel Aviv, no contracts, just with a handshake. Because if you rip someone off, not only will you never do business with that person, their family won't ever do business with your family for 3 generations. So it's a big deal if you rip someone off for your whole family. It's something else, and it's not just this sort of disposability, I'll get another customer, which actually I think in the internet age is an illusion, because people talk. We're living in an internet village now again.
Yeah. I did a video years ago called "Market as if you lived in a small town."
Nice.
Sort of idea. Just you're going to run into these people. You'll see them later, and word does spread. And I mean, the truth is, in a global economy, let's just say, okay, you could just keep moving to different countries and starting again. Burning through people in the same way, and maybe you could do that your whole life, and it would never catch up with you. But here's what you've condemned yourself to: is so much work.
Right.
I talk about there's these 3 levels of marketing: cold, warm, and hot. The cold level is you're approaching people as strangers. They have no idea who you are. Cold approach, cold calling. The warm level is now they're hubs. So you're going to do a workshop in a town, and there's somebody who's already connected to that crowd, and you say, hey, do you want to do a partnership? Like the first time I came to England, there was a guy, Saul Tracy, lovely man, lives in London, and he was very connected to the kind of conscious festival scene. And I sent an email to my list, said, anyone connected want to host a workshop? And he wrote back, and we co-did it, basically. Weekend workshop, charged £99. He got half, I got half. So that was much easier for me than trying to hustle cold, just randomly emailing people. And England. But the third level, the hot level, this is where you've become a hub. And so if you can imagine at that cold level, you put in 10 units of effort and you get 1 unit of reward. At the hub level, it's at least a 1-to-1 ratio. But at the hot level, you're putting in 1 unit of effort, you get 10 units of reward. Why? Because your reputation is so well established, and most of your business is coming through word of mouth. You've kind of worked it long enough. Now the marketplace knows you. All the hubs in the marketplace know you. So when people say, for example, with you, they say, yeah, I'm a yoga teacher, but I really want to do more around the body and not this intellectual head stuff. And people, Mark Walsh, that's who you, and the name just starts coming up in the conversations and online, and people start referring. And so that's the level to me I want to see all my clients get to. But if you're you're burning people out and starting again, you're always at the cold level.
It's hard work. It feels bad because you're looking over your shoulder, and I think there are some customers that I didn't treat very well, like in the early days when I didn't really know about the fit 12 years ago. I'm still almost looking over my shoulder for those 1 or 2 people that I didn't treat well, that I kind of should have given a full refund to and I gave a half refund to. I kind of didn't get this in the early days, and I still occasionally hear they badmouth me. They're still damaging my reputation 12 years later. I'm like, I wish I could invite them to another workshop. I've got so much better, and I'm so much better at what I do. And it's like, wow, if I'd have known that 1 or 2, maybe I was like, I think of one person in particular. I was tight for the money. I'd already taken their money. I probably should have given them a full refund. I gave them a half refund. I was like, buyer beware. It was fair enough. It was on paper, fair enough. But in my heart, it wasn't. And I still regret that. And that person can still damage me now.
And, a lot of us can probably think of dating and, past relationships like this. Like, I should have not been that way. And part of this is just to invite some mercy into the space is, we all learn on other people's backs. And we're growing up in a dominant culture where there's no tutelage. There's no apprenticeship on any of this. So I would imagine in the Sikh community and the Jewish community, for example, you would grow up seeing these business dealings. You'd be invited. You'd be hearing stories about it all the time. You'd get so much mentorship in how to do business, how not to do business. By the time it was your business, and you'd probably still be getting mentorship then, and people you could call to ask questions. So it wouldn't be freewheeling it, which is what a lot of us are doing.
Learning curve is pretty brutal for us, huh? If you don't have that cultural background for it, pretty brutal learning curve. And I feel like this idea of forgiveness and mercy is really, in traditional cultures, is so important. And I think in the modern world, we've lost this a little bit. We know how to persecute really well now, but not so well to forgive. And this is a problem in dating as well as business, I think.
Yeah, it's a very unforgiving time. And so, I would just say, first of all, good for us all to have an exhale of we're genuinely doing the best we can. And the thing that we have utterly underestimated is the cultural poverty we live in. And when we look at the dysfunctions we have in relationships, in our health, in finances, in business and marketing, 99% of that, I think, could be chalked up to, it's not to take our responsibility away, but there's a reason it's there. We're not broken. It's just, this is what we're living with.
So when you say cultural poverty, you mean the sort of conditions of industrialized modern life, which mean that we're not getting the kind of social benefits of kind of tribal life, of community, of belonging, this kind of thing.
Yeah, everything from attachment to the kind of cultural life where you're singing and dancing a lot as a way to just deal with the trauma of being a human being, elders, ceremonies, rituals, traditions, knowing the stories of the place, being proud of the people you come from. Like, all we have almost none of that these days. So of course it's understandable that this is where we're at. And so it's good to then be staggered by that a bit. And if we understand that, it makes the filtering piece even more important. It kind of lifts the stakes on the filtering, because if you don't filter well, this is what you will deal with, is people who then start accusing you of screwing them over, and maybe because you are, or people who are just a drag. People, I've had the people in my workshop just not stable people, and I don't know if I could have filtered them out, but there is a cost to this, and so it is worthwhile. But there are people I have filtered out. I got their application form and I read it, and I could feel this is not stable.
We got more and more filters every year for the Embodied Facilitator course. It's our biggest training. We used to have 1 or 2 filters. Now it's like, okay, untreated trauma history. We want to know this. Okay, we want to know about that. It's like this every year we're getting more and more filters because every time someone sneaks through, if they're a bad fit, we develop a new filter. And there's a learning process, like a feedback process. And because it's just not worth having one person in a group of 30 looking at me like they hate me or completely unstable or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's it's on both sides. It's not worth it for you. I mean, it's hellish to have clients who hate you, but it's also hellish for them. So it's like, why should everyone be miserable? Let's all be happy. And the way we do that is various mechanisms. And filtering, again, it's not a philosophy like you're talking about. I mean, I love what you said. Every time somebody sneaks through, we develop another filter for it. That's, to me, the proper understanding. So every bad client we should almost be collapsing at their feet and kissing their feet and saying, thank you so much. I didn't see that one before. And now because I see it, I'm going to be able to, stop those people from wasting their time because I wouldn't be a fit. It's such a respectful approach to moving through the world. It'd be the same thing. I think a lot of us have had this where you dated somebody and your things are going really well, and then they drop this huge deal breaker. Like, by the way, I have kids. I'm married. I have this terminal disease. I have this sexually transmitted disease, whatever. And you're like, I wish I'd known that earlier.
Right. Like, and some of them aren't what you'd expect. Like one of our filters, for example, we're really careful if anyone's a close friend of mine to accept them as a student. Because we found that close friends are a fucking nightmare. As students, they don't do the work, there's respect. Like, if someone's an acquaintance, it's okay. But if someone's a really close friend of mine, it's a problem, we've found. So that was a filter that we, not always, but it's one we're now really careful of. Someone that's the close personal friend with a different relationship and simply, the customer, kind of friendly customer. It's stuff like that we just wouldn't have predicted till it happened,
Yeah, and that's got to be said. So much of, because filtering connected with niching, so much of this is a trial and error. I heard this quote that said, success is the result of good judgment. Good judgment is the result of experience. Experience is often the result of bad judgment. So
gotta be learning.
That's how it goes. You're gonna think you have your niche figured out. Then you're gonna do a workshop and you realize a bunch of the people there aren't a fit. And so you're gonna refine the niche and processes, and it's gonna go better. But then someone else is gonna show up. So you keep honing it. But there is a sweet spot you get to where basically everyone who shows up is good.
Nice.
And it's just a treat. It's a bit of and it's a pleasure for everyone.
And then you feel like this is such a luxury to be working, serving these people in a way they're happy. I'm happy. I'm like, I'm getting paid for this. This is crazy. This is amazing. I love those days. Oof.
Yeah.
Tad, we need to wrap up again. This is another super awesome one. I really appreciate your stuff. And you've got a lot of good stuff at marketingforhippies.com, right? The free tools, there's ebooks there that a bunch of my students bought back. I recommend the episode. I did an episode called How to Sell Embodiment, and Mark Silver's episode and Tad Hargrave's first episode on the podcast. Anything else you want to say about like your stuff or resources? Anything else out there?
No, just that I want to interview you. One of the next ebooks I'm going to write will be about filtering, so I want to do a little interview with you about what you've done.
We'll send you a warning video and. I'm a fairly extreme case. I learned the hard way for sure through a little bit of pain. So it was. You have my personality. You have to learn what you're teaching. But I'm glad I have now. Okay, final message about the body in relation to marketing.
Well, it doesn't feel good to market badly. Your body will tell you. You will just feel incredibly uncomfortable. Your body is very reliable in this. If you feel off in your body about the way you're marketing, you're doing it wrong.
Boom. Tad, thank you so much.
some ways to get more, to give back, and to get more involved now. So the biggest request I have would be to share the podcast with your friends, people that you think would really enjoy it. Email it to them, put it on your social media, tell them about it, old school. Really appreciate that. Equally, if you want to support us financially, you can go to Patreon. That's patreon.com/embodiment podcast and give us $1 an episode. And I'd say they're well worth $1. So that's less than £1 if you're in UK-ish. So yeah, please go there. On the embodiedfacilitator.com website is where this is hosted. If you're, most people I think listen to for iTunes. iTunes, we'd certainly appreciate a review. The way iTunes works means that a review means more people will find it. iTunes regards it as more important for searches. So even a couple of sentences review really does help as a little thank you to us. And if you want to go to embodiedfacilitator.com, you can see the actual, links to the sites. There's comments on there. The Facebook group tends to be where people discuss things. So if you go to put in the Embodiment Podcast into Facebook, there's a page which is relatively quiet and a group which does have some discussion on. So I will reply to things personally there. So also on embodiedfacilitator.com website, there's all sorts of freebies there. There's videos, there's free ebooks, there's ebooks you can buy. And of course, there's our newsletter list. If you want to stay in touch and learn about things like the Embodied Facilitator course and our next Embodied Yoga Principles teacher training, then go to that website and you'll see a little pop-up and you can get the newsletter through there. Okay, so I think they're the main ones. Tell your friends, pay us some money on Patreon, give us a review on iTunes, send us your email if you want to be on the newsletter list, and get involved on the Facebook there. Bit long. Pick whatever you like that works for you. Until next time, welcome home to the body.